Our society is now obsessed with sharing. Why is that? It is like when we were kids and your friends would come over to your house and you showed them all of the things in your room. But now people do that with humor as well as with things they are seriously proud of, such as memes or participatory events, respectively. Sharing is not the problem per se. The problem with sharing in our forever modern era is the connection which is attempted to achieve through sharing. It is no secret that people feel lonelier as each modern day passes by. And when we share things online as well as in real life, we are really looking to connect with people. We are looking for feedback, interaction, and the building of long-term and healthy relationships. Unfortunately, relationships nowadays are weaker than ever before. All you have to do is walk into a modern classroom and you won't see students talking to one another nor interacting. You will see them on their phone, connected and online, informed on everything that is currently going on in the world. Ironically, looking to connect with other people because they don't like the people they are with. Yet we are all of those people nobody likes nowadays. We don't really like to be around people, and since we are also people, nobody likes to be around us either. It's funny but true. We share and share online because we are trying to find that human connection we can't seem to find in the real world. And this can go one of two ways in the future. Either we will evolve further towards transhumanism and eventually start to effectively and exclusively connect with people online through cables, or we will keep on feeling alone and depressed because our real social world is so fragmented and deteriorated. There is this idea I heard recently from Lina Caceres, who has written the book on how to be successful online in Latin America. And I'm sure that many other people have mentioned this before, but the idea is that we have an online world and a physical world. And she states that in order to be successful in the online world, you have to be successful in the physical world. In other words, you can't forget about the physical world, at least not yet. If we extend this idea to the oversharing problem, then we can say that how you act online is also how you act in real life. If you overshare online, you tend to overshare in the physical world. If you only share memes, you tend to stay quiet and impersonal in the physical world. If you don't share anything ever, then you probably stay away from people in general. If you only shop online, then in the physical world, you only tend to shop, and so on. That is, anything you do or don't do online ultimately says a lot about the type of person you are in the real world. Now, I don't believe in the idea that as you grow older, you tend to want to be more at home and less socially active while staying away from people. I think back to my parents and how their generation was very social well into their 40s and 50s, right before technology and social media really exploded in the decade of the 2010s. It isn't an age thing, but rather an era thing. People nowadays want to be alone, but also don't. They want real friends, but don't even want to try to be or exist because it is too exhausting to socialize, speak, interact, think, or even gossip. All of those activities are truly real jobs and tasks and are, at least nowadays, naturally hard. Why have these activities become hard? Could it be because we give most of our attention to the online world and not so much to the physical world anymore? Could it be because we really deep down hate other people and we as humanity do not get along with anybody truly? Jordan Peterson has been throwing this idea around lately in regards to all of the bad things in life, and conventional wisdom will ask, why does that person steal or do drugs or do bad things? And Peterson asks, why wouldn't they? In other words, the human tendency is to do bad things, to be anxious and to be nasty and primitive and emotional and irrational. I mean, it is where we come from. We must not forget that. So then being bad is not the exception, it is the rule. Being good in reality is the exception, and Peterson's inquiry digs into the conditions to thrive. So back to the question of why we feel like socializing is really hard work. It could be because it is. And the right question would then be, what are the conditions under which socialization, healthy communication, and building constructive and long-term relationships can happen and thrive? We all hear and see the wars going on in the world, the conflicts in our cities and with our friends and families, the news with their catastrophic presentations and forecasts on current events. All of this information is proof that humanity is mostly and naturally troubled and problematic. And this can be because of identity. Yes, identity. Think about it. We all look and long for connection. And when we achieve connection, whether with our family, our nation, an ideology, a celebrity, we will defend that identity against those opposite of us, against those on the other side of the room, against those threatening and willing to damage what is sacred to me, against those willing to ultimately attack me. That is, attack what I identify with. So, does connecting really lead to good places? If you join an organization, it will have enemies, and those enemies become your new enemies just because you identify with the new organization. And this is not to say that connecting is bad, but again, bad is the rule and good the exception. How can you connect and feed your social necessities? And yes, they are necessities according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In fact, it takes up to the 3rd level and part of the 4th level out of the 5 levels with love and belonging and self-esteem respectively. How can you connect without throwing yourself into conflict with other groups that represent a threat to your group? It's kind of like if you are alone, you are fighting against yourself and everybody else, society in general, because nobody loves you. And if you join a group, then you are fighting against other groups that hate your group. And oh, what a rush to belong and fight other groups. Who wouldn't want to participate in a revolution, in an important historical event that ultimately leads to an ideal and better future? Who wouldn't want to belong to a group which will protect them and which will represent all of the beliefs you have? Some protesters were asked during the January 6th riot in the United States what they were doing around the Capitol just before storming in, and they said, "We are here for the revolution." It feels good to be a part of something bigger than yourself. Now, since oversharing is the inability to control yourself when you share, it can be said that the solution to this problem is not to share. But that is not good enough to stop it. The other option is to do the opposite, since now we know that bad things or irregularities and asymmetry is really the rule. Then we can safely lean into the oversharing and do it to the point of exhaustion. I tend to be an oversharer, for example, and just recently I have become exhausted of sharing. Ideas and means run out, and that is okay because sometimes you simply need to do that which others may find annoying until you feel you have done enough. And this is not for society, but for yourself. You determine when you have done your best. Now, oversharing is not really a problem, nor is it an attempt for people to connect with one another. And oversharing is more than seeking to identify with something or someone. It is fundamentally participation in a world where everybody seems to matter. Opinions, memes, ideas, etc. For the time being, everything people say joins a worldwide and massive registered collection, maybe for future generations to look at and to study, maybe to be ignored forever, or perhaps even to be destroyed. Everything people share nowadays is added to an eventful and unprecedented, enormous compilation, not only of their lives, but of humanity at the beginning of the 21st century and the 3rd millennium. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and explore more on Abstracto. If you stayed until the end of the video, thank you. Next video will be about major miscommunication, rudeness versus efficiency.